I found a secret phone that belongs to my husband after hearing it vibrating in his bedside drawer. When I confronted him, he told it belongs to his friend. However, I uncovered all his lies after doing some investigation, and now I'm divorcing him for everything. Buckle up because I have quite the story to share. I'm still in shock over everything that's happened, and I could really use some support and maybe some advice on how to move forward. So, a few weeks ago, I was getting ready for bed when I heard a strange, vibrating sound coming from my husband's bedside drawer. I thought it was odd since he usually leaves his phone on the kitchen counter at night. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the drawer. To my surprise, I found a phone that I had never seen before. It was a cheap old model, but it was buzzing like crazy. My heart raced. I know it's not right to invade someone's privacy, but I felt this overwhelming urge to understand what was happening. I picked it up, and before I could even think twice, I unlocked it, thank you default passwords, and started scrolling through the messages. What I found was shocking. There were texts from a woman named Jessica, filled with heart emojis and flirty banter. My stomach dropped. I had never heard of her before, and as I read through the conversation, it became clear that they had been talking for months. The messages were suggestive, and it was evident they had met up. I felt sick to my stomach. When my husband came to bed, I confronted him immediately. I held up the phone and asked him whose it was. He looked startled and stammered, "Oh, that's just a friend's phone. I'm holding it for him." My gut told me that was a lie, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions without more evidence. I decided to do some digging. The next day, while he was at work, I went through the phone again. I found photos, not just of Jessica, but of my husband at various places with her. They were smiling, looking cozy, and I felt the betrayal wash over me like a tidal wave. I also discovered that he had saved her number under different names in case I ever looked through his contacts. It was a calculated move, and it made my blood boil. I took screenshots of everything, documenting the proof of his infidelity. I called a close friend to vent, and she encouraged me to confront him again. So, I waited for him to come home that evening, my heart pounding in my chest. When he walked through the door, I was ready. I laid out all the evidence in front of him, the texts, the photos, everything. He went pale as he realized I had found out the truth. He tried to deny it, saying it was just a fling and that it didn't mean anything. I was furious. How could he play me for a fool like this? After a long, emotional conversation filled with tears, anger, and his pitiful excuses, I made my decision. I told him I was done. I couldn't trust him anymore, and I deserved better than being treated like this. He begged me to reconsider, but I stood firm. I started the divorce process the very next day. I reached out to a lawyer and began gathering all the necessary documents. I felt a mix of sadness and relief. I had loved this man, but now I realized that I had been living a lie. I've been leaning on my friends and family for support, and they've been incredible. I'm still processing everything, and some days are harder than others. But I know that I made the right choice. I refuse to let someone who disrespects me dictate my happiness. So here I am, moving forward one day at a time. I'm focusing on myself, rediscovering my passions, and figuring out what I want in life. If anyone has been through something similar or has advice on how to navigate this new chapter, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for reading my story. I hope sharing it helps someone else out there. On to the next story. I feel awful that my boyfriend watches a lot of sexual stuff revolving around women with a completely different body type to mine. How do I navigate this situation? My boyfriend and I have been dating for over a year now, and we both have an open phone policy. He's never tried to hide anything since the beginning of our relationship, and we are open to talking about pretty much everything, including sex and previous relationships. His exes are mostly on the bigger side, which I don't mind since he's no longer in communication with them, and it's in the past. But he is attracted to women who are heavier. I just want to preface, I have no problem with people being attracted to women who are bigger than average. He also calls me beautiful every day and tries to make sure I know by pointing out parts of me that are his favorite, physical or otherwise. He's never put me down for my appearance. He also says he's looking forward to my mom bod and that if I get thicker, I have been gaining weight and was kind of insecure about it, then he wouldn't mind at all. I'm not exactly skinny. I'm 5 feet 5 inches, 135 pounds. Near the beginning of my relationship with him, we were both scrolling through his camera roll trying to find old pictures of him and his cat, where I noticed a hidden folder. I asked what was on there, and he seemed hesitant but said, "Sure, go ahead." It's kind of embarrassing though. I opened it and it was different women, but all with similar bigger body types. I had a conversation with him then on how I don't feel comfortable with him having pictures of other women on his phone, and said that if he didn't think it was a problem and would like to keep them, then maybe we weren't compatible. He said he understands that it makes me uncomfortable and apologized profusely, and that he would delete all of them since he was planning to anyway after we started dating, and that I could look through his phone whenever I wanted to. I also found his Twitter, and it was the same type of women, some being the same of women's content, and he also said he would delete his Twitter. Fast forward to a month ago from now, he brought over one of his old phones from his old apartment he used to live in. We live in the same apartment complex as his mom. He used to live with her and was charging it. I asked him what it was, but he was acting strange and being secretive about it. I know I probably shouldn't have done, but I got really curious. I opened the lock screen, and it was a drawing of an obese woman's tummy. I don't mind if he looks at drawings, but this made me more curious. The phone had no passcode, so I looked into it, and I found his old Twitter still logged in under a different name. It was active yesterday and had videos and pictures of the same women, all on the bigger side, either naked or showing their bodies off on camera. Some were doing porn acts, others were just modeling. He followed all of them, and my heart sank. A lot of them were the same women from Twitter, who had a YouTube channel where I've also found his account and had a playlist saved of women on there too, some even the same women. I brought this up with him and said per our last conversation that this was a hard boundary for me and that if he's truly doesn't want to stop then to tell me now, and that maybe we could figure out a compromise or that we just aren't compatible. He apologized again and said that he'd delete it and that he just got really lonely after I started a new job and got a UTI around the same time. We couldn't have sex for a week, was also my first UTI, with a pain I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. He also said he would stop looking at other women online and that he'd delete stuff on his YouTube too. I didn't ask for it, but he asked that I go through it and delete whatever I wanted right then, and I refused, saying that I trust him and that I didn't want it to affect our relationship. He also said I could bring this up whenever I wanted to, and he'd never shut me down. We were watching a video together on YouTube, and I saw in his history that he was still watching vids of other women and that he'd even save favorite ones to a playlist. I'm planning on bringing this up with him tomorrow, but I don't know how to approach it since it's the third time already. I'd rather he tell me straight that he's going to keep doing it and that he doesn't see a problem with it rather than just promising me that he won't do it anymore. I feel like I was inadequate somehow now that I know I'm not his preferred type. He tells me I'm beautiful to him in every way, but I feel like I'm not satisfying him because I'm not big enough. I would find myself afraid that if I someday get skinnier than I am now, then he will no longer find me attractive. I just feel awful, and I want to understand why he does it. I'm not sure if this will be a deal breaker for me. I really don't want it to, but I just want to know if other people feel this way too, or if it's something that can be worked out through compromise. What did you think of these stories? Let me know your thoughts about them in the comments, and thanks for listening.